everyone, Mike Anderson here with Reno Fly Shop. Today we're tying the Maribou Midge used for Pyramid Lake. It's a fly that we just introduced for this year, well 2018-2019 season out at Pyramid Lake, and it has been super effective. A lot of my bigger fish have actually come on this pattern here, so we're going to start out tying it. The hook is a 3/16. I like to tie these a little bit bigger, so they're a size 8. I still use that same 3.5 millimeter bead though, so just to kind of preserve that taper a bit. And then as always, the thread I'm using is 14-aught Veevus. Start off by doing a little thread base and breaking it off. Starting a little bit of a taper. We're not going to have to worry about that too much like the other midges, but just a little bit. And then right here, I'm actually going to turn the hook upwards, I guess downwards in my vise. Bring the thread back until I am just above the middle point of the bend, right around there. I'm going to grab my Maribou. I like to use Woolly Bugger Maribou from Hairline. The reason is it has a lot of these little fluffy areas instead of, you can see kind of on the other side of this feather how it's kind of pointed. This fluffy side is really what I want. So I'm only going to take about maybe 1/4 inch worth of Maribou. Do my best to line up the butts. What I'm going to do is preen these in my finger back by just kind of moving my fingers in and out until I really isolate the pointed part of those. Get my other fingernail in there and just yank them off. So now you can see I'm left with mostly just the fuzz and the fluff. That's what I want. Okay, so I'm going to get those in my finger. I want about, I don't know, 1/4 inch sticking out. Tying this in is a little funky, so take your time. If your tail's a little longer than you like, that's fine. You can trim it after. And I'm going to walk up while I'm capturing the rest of this Maribou, and also what that's going to do is it's going to start to bring our taper in a little bit. Put it back upright in the vise, push those fibers forward, and then use every ounce of strength in this 14-aught thread and without breaking it to capture all of that Maribou. And then here typically I like to take a few more wraps down, try and set that Maribou right at the midpoint of the hook there. So next comes the wire, which in this case is black. And I'm going to tie this in at pretty much the full length. You can see I have it extending up towards the eye. I'm going to pull it back just a bit because it's going to tuck into that bead there a bit. I'm going to push down on my wire, and you can see that's going to force it upwards. I'm going to trap it till it hits that angle and then use my finger to roll it to keep it on my side. Really keep that taper nice and pretty. Okay. As with all of my midges that I use holographic tinsel for, I have red holographic tinsel loaded up on a bobbin. I'm going to tie this in at full length. I can feel a little bit of ridges in that, so I cut that off. Easiest way to tie this in too is just to get 3 loose wraps, kind of heading downwards, and then slowly pull it until it sits right under the bead, and then continue to tie it in on your side of the hook. Perfect. And once it's there, we're going to bring our thread back up and just kind of focus on the taper right now. Taper looks pretty darn good though, and that's because of that Maribou. Maybe just a touch more at the top here. Alright, throw a little 1/2 inch in there. Again, as always, my little trick, I turn them upside down and give my holographic tinsel a counterclockwise twist. You can see that coils up my tinsel there. Because every time that you turn your bobbin, whether it's tinsel or it's thread, you're putting a half turn in it. So I basically just did the opposite, so that now as I'm bringing it up the shank, I'm unwinding what I just wound. Okay, bring that up, making sure to cover everything. We don't really want any of the black base to show through because we're going to use the wire to give it that black segmentation and give it a little more durability. Perfect. Capture it at the top. I like to pull that taut and get in there as close as I can. That way I don't leave a little nub in there. And then don't really care too much about counter ribbing. We're going to put epoxy on this and resin, and that's going to do its job in holding all of that down. So just wrap that up. Tying in wire with 14-aught can be a little challenging. So just take your time until you get used to how much pressure it takes. Helicopter that off. Web finish. Make sure that the bead is secure. A little movement is okay, but if it's just loose, 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 keep doing whip finishes until it is solid. Just like that. Trim off your thread. I like to use Solarez bone dry for my epoxy. You really want to make sure to keep this away from the Maribou, just like I did. If you touch the Maribou, it's not the greatest thing. You're going to lose a little bit of the movement, which is kind of the point of the Maribou on there. Again, try and keep this as thin as we can. Hit it with our Deer Creek laser. It's the reason I like Solar is that's cured, not tacky, good to go. So tie this baby up. I really don't go below a size 10 on this, just because the Maribou adds an extra girth to it. It makes it kind of a funny taper if you go below 10. So 8 and 10s are what I tie this in. I use this as the point fly typically if I'm running 2 midges. Super effective. Give her a tie, take it out there.